So we've got Shannon Furman here, director of Hard Knocks. She's done 18 years with NFL Films. She was assistant director from 2015 to 2017, and now she is the head honcho 2018 to present. Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We're doing great. You know, a lot of the reason we're doing great is because we've gotten to watch y'all's show. I mean, like, we talked about it for a solid 30 minutes the other day. I feel like it's just a great primer for the real stuff. And I think every year, even football players, I used to sit in my hotel room, we were saying this last week, late at night and watch and see what was going on in everybody else's little bubble. So as far as like when you guys map this thing out, one of the most interesting things is the way the characters emerge or don't emerge, I feel like. And for a character not to emerge, you know, that character is just being himself. So maybe he's just not as electric as you guys expected. But do you guys kind of like flow chart which players you think will be the most interesting, and then how do you make the in-flight adjustments?
Yeah, we have a big meeting kind of like before we come to camp or whatever year, you know, different times each year depending on when we find out who's doing the show, and we research everyone on the team. We stalk y'all's Instagrams. we figure out kind of what everybody's interested in off the field, their background on the field, and we have guys who we're targeting. But then a lot ends up being based on what happens in games. If there's big plays being made in games, we do try to highlight those people. So the games will dictate a lot of that, but we do go into it with a good idea of who we kind of want to feature. And then the games kind of narrow it down even more for us.
How would you rate Zeke Elliott's present rapping?
I mean, it was one of my favorite scenes we've probably ever done. Like I just was like smiling from ear to ear the whole time we were doing that with him. And then even afterwards. So I actually think he did better than the final product was better looking than I expected it to be. Like during the process, one of my camera guys actually had to tell me to stop talking because I just wanted to like jump in there and help him rap the present. And they were like, Shannon, shut up. Let him just do it. Yeah. But yeah, it actually, the final product, as goofy as it looked while he was doing it, it didn't look that terrible when he was all finished.
If Micah Parsons didn't go to Penn State, would he be featured as prominently this year on Hard Knocks? I do not hate Penn State. We've got a Nittany Lion here on the horn.
Okay.
Well, I did have a head start with Micah because I also do a show at Films called Hey Rookie. So he was one of the 4 rookies that we featured leading up to the draft this year. And Micah's good TV. Yes. So we knew him and he had a familiarity with working with NFL Films. So he was definitely on our radar early on. But yes, he did have a slight unfair advantage in my relationship with him.
That's a good nugget there. I didn't know Shannon was a Penn State or.
I do my prep.
Do your prep. Well, I do my prep too, and I'm wondering. I've been hearing that like sometimes you guys have cameras hid out in like smoke detectors and stuff. Like, is that? She's laughing. Is that like a little bit of an urban legend, or like how kind of, I don't know, tiny can these cameras be?
Well, they're not tiny. You know if they're there.
Okay, you know if they're there. So guys are exaggerating.
Yes. I mean, I wish we were that interesting. Yeah. I even here at Cowboys camp, it's been kind of funny because, you know, we just moved back to Dallas. So we were in Oxnard and everyone would say to me, well, like, don't you just have a camera in every single room? And I'm like, no.
Okay. So it's a myth.
Yeah, like we have a lot of them, but we do end up having to like pick and choose. Like we don't have every single position group, but and some of the rooms we have multiple cameras in. So like in the staff room or the team room, we have 2 and 3 cameras. So it's not every single room has a camera in it. And we'd like, I think one of the days, even like the team video staff was asking me, they're like, well, don't you just have like microphones like everywhere? And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. You can't just put a microphone and expect like something to happen on it. So it is planned out and there's a lot of them, but it's not everywhere. There's still some privacy.
You only had one camera and you had to put it in a meeting room. Which position group yields the most interesting content in your opinion?
The D line is usually probably our biggest group of characters. They're going to be featured this week just as a preview for you guys for tomorrow night. But the D line is definitely featured this week in the show. I feel like I feel like it's usually D-line and receivers. They're the top two.
No doubt about it.
Logistically, how does this show come together? Because last week, for instance, and this is the case every year, but the Cowboys play a game on Sunday. The show's released on Tuesday. You have Liev Schreiber, who I don't think is on site with you guys. Do you have any sense for how much footage you actually have and how painstaking it must be to condense it into an hour show and on short notice?
Yeah, I mean, we usually say we shoot about 400 hours for every hour that's on TV. The first episode is even more so because especially this year, we were there, I think, for 21 days before we had an episode that aired. So our game was on Thursday last week, that makes all the editors at home very happy because they had from Thursday until Tuesday. And then they practiced against the Rams on Saturday, but we knew that Rams practice was for show 2. There was like no way, unless something super crazy had happened that was like national news. Like, I mean, even the Aaron Donald and Connor Williams fight, like that was like, I know that was all over everything, but we were like, we're holding this until next week because we knew we had so much for show 1. But, so that was a Thursday game, which is nice for those people that edit at home. And then Liev narrates, I believe he's doing it at 9 a.m. East Coast time on Tuesday morning. So he does it the day the show airs.
Wow.
And I think it's, because it was 6 a.m. last week when I was on Pacific time that he did it. So it is kind of like, we usually say our deadline is like Saturday night at 10 p.m., kind of everything we've captured up until Saturday, unless it's like national news and we have to get it in. I think like the latest thing we ever got into the show was at Raiders camp when Antonio Brown, I think he did this to us twice. I think he came back to camp twice, like on a Tuesday morning. And we were like, okay, we got to get this in. So you're just kind of in constant communication with the people back at home, letting them know that this is happening and this is what they have to get in. And we call it like we break cards. So everything's shot on these cards. And like, I'd have people follow him for like 5 minutes. They'd break their card. Then another group would kind of come on and like follow him. And then just so that we could kind of keep feeding the footage home in real time so they could edit that and get it in the show as quickly as possible. But that's probably the latest something being shot and actually ending up in the show happened was Antonio returning to camp on a Tuesday morning around 10:30 West Coast time it was.
How about Aaron Donald's fight? You mentioned that. Is that so? You're saying that's going to be you're going to get more close-ups of that skirmish next week on Hard Knocks? Tonight as you're listening.
Yeah, that'll be for this week's show. So, and that wasn't the only one. There was a couple nothing major happened. They were all pretty well behaved at that practice, but there was definitely a couple little instances that broke out there. So that will all be featured.
There's always fights in Oxnard. There's always fights. Dallas and LA or St. Louis, there was always fights. What about like the worst fight you guys have actually taped over the years?
I mean, the worst one was probably my first year in Houston when they went to
Washington?
They went to Richmond for Washington.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And it was raining that day. So we're all like in ponchos and we have like wires hanging off of us. And then this like, I mean, I remember seeing a helmet go like flying by my head, like real close. That was probably more so because like I just felt like I was like trapped in this plastic bag and had wires coming out everywhere. But that was definitely the worst one that I've been that close to.
Is it hard? I mean, obviously it's tough to do this and there's probably a dance and an art to doing it respectfully, but the cut days, I mean, how does that work? Does everybody just sign off on, hey, my worst moment's going to be possibly on Hard Knocks, and do you guys ever kind of have to edit responsibly as to not leave some things in that are very personal?
Yeah, I mean, we like to like on a moment like that, like I think we like to work with the players and the team on stuff like that. Like we hate it just as much as we become friends with everybody that's on this show. So it's like, I think like my worst year, like in Cleveland, we had like the greatest fourth game it was the Browns and the Lions. And like you had like Brogan throwing touchdowns and then Nate Orchard like had an interception, like a batted pass that he intercepted and he returned. And like all of our long shot characters played this great game. And then 12 hours later getting cut. And it's like the craziest feeling. You go from like this ridiculous high, like watching these guys and like knowing you're going to put together this awesome show. And then they're losing their jobs the next day. So I think like, in our heads, like we're hoping that all these people are going to get another job and we can help them with that. We can help get them exposure and help get them more tape that's out there. I mean, that's always been my goal, is like hopefully, and we want to show that too. So this year we actually have more time to show things like that if it happens, because the cuts have been moved up this year. So hopefully we'll be able to like follow guys that we might be following who get let go to another team. But I think we like happy endings. So we're hoping that we can get a happy ending for most of these players on another squad, if that's possible, anyone who does get cut.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I like to find guys who are making the team, honestly.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I'd rather pick a bubble player who is going to make the team than get cut from the team. I mean, even like, again, another Penn State guy, Jason Kabinda, he was a guy we added at Raiders camp kind of because we were worried we didn't have anyone making the team. And so we wanted someone who was like, we thought was definitely making the team. And then he ended up getting released too. And it was like, oh God, why is this happening? So, but they all found jobs. I mean, I think like, most of the guys that we've followed that were like long shot characters on this show have at least gotten another job right away off of Hard Knocks. Devin Kajus might have been the only one who didn't, who was the tight end in Cleveland, but he was the guy that was like selling gems and things like that. And I'm pretty sure he has like a whole holistic health business now.
I remember that. He was the geode guy.
Yeah.
The geode
and now,
guy.
I think I saw his Instagram recently, and I think he's got like a whole business like doing stuff like that.
You guys helped him, work on his, he's got like an energy healing business or something.
And is there a blanket release contract along the lines of what you're talking about, Chris, that everybody just knows that everything's on tape? Or do you have players, coaches, front office guys covering mics and covering up cameras? Or can they say, does anybody have veto power on that just can't get out?
I mean, I guess they could. We've never really had that happen. Everybody's a little different, I would say, in how they want it covered and what we do with that. But I feel like in this day and age at this point, and it's gotten a little bit easier because there's just so much stuff out there anymore between like documenting things on social media, stuff like that. Like the Raiders year was a little bit more of a struggle because Mike Mayock really didn't want any of that out there. But I mean, I did have Jason Kabinda tell me afterwards he was happy that he got to see his conversation with his defensive coordinator on TV afterwards, and he felt like he got to defend himself about why he thought he should have made the team. So that was an interesting perspective, at least for me to hear, like coming from a player saying that he was glad he saw himself on TV, defending himself essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably the only time where we were like a little bit worried we weren't going to be able to finish telling guys' stories, but we try to be as respectful as possible with all of that and work with everybody to make them at least feel comfortable with it.
I talked about the cameras earlier. I'm bouncing around a little bit, but the cameras that you guys probably use are top of the line. Like I want to ask about slow motion because I think, the usage of that is just like, it's like the other day, people complain about the Hall of Fame game, because the quality of play. But when you guys close that show with slow motion, I couldn't tell if I was looking at Gale Sayers and Lawrence Taylor. They might as well have been that caliber of player because of the use of slow motion. How do you guys decide when and how much, and what are the keys to using that?
I mean, we have the luxury of there's a lot of cameras out there. So to cover one of these games, we are probably shooting anywhere from 10 to 12 cameras covering the game. So we have 2 slow motion cameras on each sideline. So essentially we're not missing any touchdown from either side of the field. And we have that every single week. I honestly don't think we use enough of our slow motion stuff anymore because I think that's what makes us different than everybody else. So I was happy when they came up with that idea. It was kind of because, like you said, the game, we hadn't established many characters yet last week who were going to play in that game. So I think that was interesting and a different technique. And that's actually the people at home that decide that. So I have a team of 36 producers, directors, coordinators here with me in Dallas. And then there's a whole another group of people back in New Jersey. And that was a call that they made. An hour before kickoff, I think they texted me and said, think about this. It's something that we might end up doing. And then they did end up pulling that off. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, there's going to be a sequence this week. We used a camera called the Phantom camera, which my camera operators can speak week more too, but that's really like slow motion. It's how the open, I don't know if you guys, the way the open looked and things are like ramped up and then slowed down. We are going to be using that more to cover some of the practice stuff this week. And it looks pretty cool.
Was Jerry Jones eating I know you can't possibly say it was a McGriddle for sure, but was that a dry ass McGriddle that one of the richest people in America was eating?
Maybe.
That's confirmation.
Maybe. That was an endearing moment for Jara.
That was a mojo moment.
That was a mojo moment. What about miking players up? Because that's got to be difficult. Like, we're big, sweaty guys in shoulder pads hitting each other. How do they stay in place? Are there guys that are kind of like resistant to it? Because I was always kind of resistant to getting mic'd up on Sundays. And, I wonder if it's the same thing for Hard Knocks.
I mean, the guys on the Cowboys have been pretty good so far. I'm not sure that we've had anybody decline a wire yet this year. We'll usually get some here and there, but it's different depending on what y'all are wearing. If you have pads on or shells on, there's a different technique to it. So we do, like, every jersey has like a pouch sewn in, and they're able to kind of like put it on the back so that you shouldn't even really know it's there technically. And that's like when you're wearing shells. If you're wearing pads, the guys go in super early, and I mean, it's like kind of crazy. They use all this like foam stuff, and again, shouldn't know it's there. Like Tyron Smith was mic'd one day and he couldn't find it, and he's like, "Is it on here? I can't tell if it is. I think it might be."
They do a pretty great job with it now. I mean, like when I got in the league, it was more intensive than it is now. It's just incredible in 10, 12 years. What about favorite moments for you personally over the show since you've joined? Like, there have to be a few that stick out.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite show, the Texans, was my first year really. Like, I did the Jets one on location for a couple of weeks, but the Texans one was the first one where I was like the assistant director. Again, the Penn State connection with Bill O'Brien. That was fun. I think like one of my all-time favorite moments was probably when Charles James scored a touchdown against New Orleans. He was a corner, and they had been practicing him at running back because Arian Foster got hurt, and they didn't want to bring in anybody else. So they kind of were transitioning this corner for the rest of the preseason to play running back. And I had like kind of like jokingly mentioned to Coach O'Brien, I think it was my birthday too. I had mentioned like, "Oh, can you put Charles in at running back?" thinking he'd like laugh at me. And he said something like, "If we're up by 2 scores, like I'll put him in at running back." And then I start hearing with like 5 minutes left. I think they're up like 17. I'm not sure. But with like 4 minutes left, I start hearing like over my headphones, like, "Get me Charles." And I'm like, "Oh my God, is this really going to happen? Is he going to do this?" And so he does. He's like, he puts him in the game. And then you're like, well, whatever. He's probably just going to get like tackled and nothing's going to happen. And he ends up running for this like 70, 80-yard touchdown. They call it back because of a holding penalty, but like we're able to make it look like the guy just won the Super Bowl on a touchdown that wasn't even a real touchdown. And then afterwards, like, he gets the game ball. Bill O'Brien gave him the finger on the bus ride out. It was just a really awesome way to end that show, and just stands out for me because of kind of how it all went down.
Oh, that's great.
Is your birthday August 29th?
There you go with the birthday thing.
It's the 30th, but we'll pretend it's the 29th, so maybe I can get a favor in the Jaguars game.
Well, we're wishing you a happy birthday. We're big birthday people here.
Hey, you know how you can do like a media clip montage? If we say something interesting about Dak's most recent MRI, it's Monday afternoon right now. Could we potentially make
into the
Tuesday night show if it's really
There's
compelling?
Still time. She's right there. There's green buckets behind her with wires and stuff. She's in the lab.
It would have to be really interesting at this point because the show is pretty much done.
Maybe next week. Next week.
He might have the same injury. Yeah, you might.
Oh, my torn labrum.
Your torn labrum. Well, we don't know. We don't want to speculate.
Yeah, because it's not a setback, and it's not a reason to worry.
It's not a reason to worry. Cowboys Twitter said that. Hey, what do you remember about a guy named William Hayes?
I remember that he doesn't believe in dinosaurs.
There he is. He's right over Macon's shoulder right there.
Our faces are next to each other.
You look so just...
Yeah, I think...
You're not buying it.
No,
we found these things.
It sounds absolutely ridiculous.
We did All or Nothing with the Rams that year. We stayed and documented the whole season, and we went and bought a Christmas tree with him, which was probably one of the top 10 funniest moments of my career, with him and his children at the Christmas tree farm.
His kids are amazing, and he's one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. inside or outside of football. And you guys did a great job of highlighting that. He ended up on like some of the late shows because of y'all.
Yeah.
He got to go to like the dinosaur museum and convince people that they're not real and such. So I don't know. You got anything else for Shannon?
Could go for days on Mojo moments.
You want to talk about Mojo moments a little bit more?
I don't know if Shannon wants to speak on Mojo moments. I'm curious, do you think Coach McCarthy thinks that Mojo is momentum?
Mojo. The libido, the life force, the essence, the right stuff.
Is there any clarity? Are we going to see another Mojo moment?
We're going to get more Mojo moments. Have they stopped?
They haven't stopped. They're still doing them at practice.
Oh, good.
I don't know that it's going to be in the show again this week, but maybe we'll visit again in a later show.
We'd love to put in a word for Mojo moments. We need more.
You need more. You like the Mojo moments.
Yeah, that would have been the thing that would have got me really, motivated to work out there in that heat.
Late 30s. We see Austin Powers and we're... Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, what's going on here? No, yeah, this has been awesome. I mean, like literally what you guys do is amazing because I know we struggle to turn a podcast around in 24 hours. You guys are like the unsung heroes behind the curtain. So we thank you here at Greenlight for entertaining us all August, every August.
No doubt. And finally, Shannon, what color is lemon lime Gatorade?
Oh yeah, that's good. We should ask her.
It's like a greenish yellow.
Yes.
So it's a greenish yellow.
But it's greenish though.
It's a greenish yellow.
She started with greenish.
It's not you would be more upset if she said yellowish green. So it's a yellow.
I'm just happy she said green. I'm happy that her color, what's the word that he used?
That guy's a kook.
Yeah, we've been arguing here on that.
Maybe like 4 parts yellow, 1 part green, you'd say?
She's going to say whatever she has to say to get off this podcast. She's got to work, man. Look at all those discs behind her and stuff. She's got to like turn those into a TV show. So
Not me. A sound guy has to do that, not me.
Shannon, thank you so much. And actually, I climbed Killy with some of your coworkers. I don't know if we have any mutual friends, but they did a great job. Hannah's one of my favorite people.
She's the best. She just went home. I'm mad at her. She left me.
Well, tell her we said hello and shout out to all that crew that was up there and keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for putting it on. Nice to meet you.